In a bustling compound in the heart of Kano, Mama Adanma and Mama Abdul lived as neighbors. Their homes stood side by side, and their bond was as strong as family. Despite their differences in parenting styles, they were inseparable friends. Mama Adanma, strict and disciplined, believed in firm rules and order. On the other hand, Mama Abdul was gentle and easygoing, rarely raising her voice. Both women were hard-working traders, often spending their days at the market, which left little time for their children, Adanma and Abdul, who had grown up together like siblings. At 12 years old, the two were inseparable, sharing secrets, doing homework, and playing games around the compound. Their laughter echoed through the dusty yard, a constant reminder of their youthful joy. One day, during a casual conversation at dinner, Abdul told his mother, "Mama, I need a phone. All my classmates have one. I feel left out." Mama Abdul paused her spoon midway to her mouth. "Phone. Abdul, don't you think you're too young for that?" "But Mama, it's not just for games. I can use it to study too," Abdul argued, his big, hopeful eyes looking up at her. Mama Abdul sighed, unsure if her son was ready for such responsibility. She decided to set a condition. "If you can come first in your class this term, I'll buy you a phone. But only if you prove you deserve it." Abdul's eyes lit up with determination. From that day forward, he studied harder than ever, pouring all his energy into his books. Even Adanma noticed the change. "You're really serious about this phone, aren't you?" she teased one evening as they worked on math homework together. "I'll show Mama I can do it," Abdul replied confidently. When the term ended, Abdul achieved his goal. He came home clutching his report card, beaming with pride. "Mama, look. First position." Mama Abdul couldn't hide her joy. She hugged him tightly and promised to keep her word. True to her promise, she bought Abdul a sleek new smartphone. It was more advanced than Abdul had ever imagined, and he was overjoyed. From that day on, the phone became Abdul's favorite possession. He used it to play games, watch cartoons, and explore the internet. Adanma often joined him, and the two spent hours laughing at funny videos and sharing silly games. One sunny afternoon, Abdul and Adanma sat in his room, glued to the phone. "Let's see what else we can find," Abdul said, scrolling through apps. Adanma nodded, her eyes wide with curiosity. "This phone has so much." Their innocent exploration marked the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted, a journey that would test their friendship and their innocence. One quiet afternoon, while Mama Adanma and Mama Abdul were away at the market, Abdul and Adanma sat in Abdul's room as they often did. Abdul was busy scrolling through his phone, navigating various apps and videos, while Adanma watched over his shoulder. Suddenly Abdul paused. "What's this?" he asked, clicking an unfamiliar icon. The screen lit up with a collection of videos. The thumbnails were unusual, unlike the cartoons and games they usually enjoyed. Abdul tapped on one out of curiosity, and the video began to play. It showed something strange. Adults behaving in ways the children didn't understand. Abdul and Adanma stared at the screen, their faces confused and curious. "What are they doing?" Adanma whispered, her voice barely audible. Abdul hesitated, his brows furrowed. "I think it's something adults do. I've heard older boys at school talk about things like this." Adanma's face flushed. "Should we be watching this?" "Feels wrong." Abdul shrugged, unable to tear his eyes away. "It's just a video. It's not like we're doing anything bad." But deep down, both children felt uneasy. The video ended, but instead of closing the app, Abdul clicked on another one. As the minutes passed, their uneasiness turned into fascination. They didn't fully understand what they were watching, but the mystery of it drew them in. "Let's not tell anyone about this," Abdul said finally, his voice firm. "It's our secret." Adanma nodded, though a part of her wanted to tell her mother. She knew, however, that Mama Adanma wouldn't take it lightly. Her strict mother was quick to punish, and Adanma couldn't imagine the consequences if she found out. From that day on, Abdul and Adanma's afternoons changed. Whenever their mothers were away, They would lock themselves in Abdul's room to watch more of the forbidden videos. The once innocent laughter that used to echo through the compound was replaced by whispered conversations and stolen glances. Days turned into weeks, and the secret began to affect their friendship. They no longer played outside or did their homework together as they used to. Instead, their bond revolved around the hidden world they had discovered. One day, Adanma turned to Abdul as they sat in his room. "Do you think it's bad that we're watching these videos?" she asked, her voice trembling. Abdul looked uncomfortable. "It's just videos, Adanma. It's not like we're doing anything wrong. But what if Mama finds out?" Abdul's expression hardened. "She won't. We just have to keep it a secret." Adanma nodded, but her unease grew with each passing day. Then one fateful afternoon, Adanma said something that shocked Abdul. "What if we try doing what they're doing in the videos?" Abdul froze. "No, that's not a good idea, Adanma." "But why not?" Adanma insisted. "If it's something adults do, maybe we can understand it better." Abdul shook his head, his heart pounding. "I don't think it's right. What if we get caught?" But Adanma wouldn't let the idea go. Her curiosity was stronger than her fear, and she kept bringing it up until Abdul reluctantly agreed. The first time they tried, it didn't go as planned. Adanma felt a sharp pain and quickly told Abdul to stop. She ran out of the room, tears streaming down her face. For days, she avoided Abdul, refusing to talk to him or even look his way. Abdul felt terrible. He wanted to apologize but didn't know how. Finally, after several days, he approached Adanma at school. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I shouldn't have agreed." Adanma hesitated before nodding. "It's okay. Let's just forget about it." Their friendship slowly returned to normal, but things were never quite the same. One random day, Adanma surprised Abdul again. "I think we should try it again," she said bluntly. Abdul stared at her in disbelief. "Adanma, no. The last time." "I want to," Adanma interrupted. "This time will be different. Please, Abdul, don't disappoint me." Abdul's heart sank. He didn't want to agree, but the thought of upsetting Adanma was unbearable. Reluctantly, he nodded. One day after school, Abdul and Adanma decided to stay behind in an empty classroom. The school was quiet. Most of the students and teachers had already gone home. Adanma looked at Abdul, her eyes full of determination. "Are you sure about this?" Abdul whispered nervously, glancing around. Adanma nodded. "We'll be quick. No one will know." They slipped into the school restroom, their hearts pounding with both fear and anticipation. Just as they were about to try what they'd seen in the videos, the sound of footsteps echoed down the corridor. "Someone's coming," Abdul hissed, grabbing Adanma's arm. Panic set in as the footsteps grew louder. They bolted out of the restroom, running in different directions. It turned out to be the school security guard making his routine rounds. Fortunately, he didn't see them, but the close call left them shaken. That evening when they got home, both Mama Adanma and Mama Abdul were still at work. Alone in the compound, Adanma turned to Abdul and said, "We have to try again, this time at home." Abdul hesitated, fear written all over his face. "I don't know, Adanma. What if someone catches us?" "No one's here," Adanma insisted. "Our mothers won't be back for hours." Reluctantly, Abdul agreed. They went into Abdul's room and locked the door. Just as they were about to begin, the sound of the front door opening startled them. "Abdul, are you home?" Mama Abdul's voice rang out. The two froze, their faces pale with fear. Mama Abdul's footsteps approached the room. She knocked on the door. "Abdul, why is this door locked?" Scrambling to cover up their actions, they opened the door. Mama Abdul's sharp eyes darted between Abdul and Adanma, sensing that something was off. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice firm. Adanma looked down at the floor, avoiding her gaze. Abdul stammered, trying to come up with an excuse, but his mother wasn't convinced. "Both of you sit down," Mama Abdul commanded. "Now tell me the truth. What have you been doing?" The children exchanged nervous glances. They knew they couldn't hide the truth any longer. With trembling voices, they confessed everything: the videos, their curiosity, and their attempts to mimic what they had seen. Mama Abdul listened in stunned silence, her heart sinking with every word. She felt a wave of guilt. How had she missed this? Had her focus on her business blinded her to her son's needs? Taking a deep breath, she said, "Stay here. I need to talk to Mama Adanma." Mama Abdul walked across the compound to Adanma's house and told her everything. Mama Adanma's face turned pale with shock. She stood up abruptly, pacing the room. "This is all Adanma's fault," she snapped. "She's the one leading Abdul astray." Mama Abdul shook her head firmly. "No, it's not just Adanma. Both of them are involved, and we need to handle this together as mothers." For the first time, Mama Adanma sat down, her usual strict demeanor replaced by worry. "What do we do?" she asked quietly. "We need to talk to them, and more importantly, we need to get them help," Mama Abdul replied. "Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes to guide them back to the right path." The two mothers returned to Abdul's house and had a long talk with the children. They explained the dangers of the content they had been watching and why their actions were harmful. Though their words were gentle, the children could feel the weight of their disappointment. After that day, things changed in the compound. Mama Adanma became more attentive to Adanma, softening her strict ways to create a more open and trusting relationship. Mama Abdul, on the other hand, made an effort to spend more time with Abdul, realizing that her leniency had left him without proper guidance. Eventually, both families agreed to seek professional help for the children. Therapy sessions helped Abdul and Adanma understand the consequences of their actions and the importance of making better choices. Despite their efforts to mend the situation, the bond between the two families was never the same. Mama Adanma decided to relocate to another state, hoping to give Adanma a fresh start away from the memories of what had happened. As the moving truck pulled away, Abdul watched from the compound, feeling a mix of sadness and relief. He had learned a hard lesson, one that would stay with him for the rest of his life. Moral of the story: it's important for parents to spend time with their children, talk to them about safe and responsible phone use, and teach them about the dangers of certain content. Phones are tools that can help children learn and communicate, but they should only be given to children mature enough to handle them responsibly. Drop your opinion in the comments. At what age do you think parents should buy a phone for their children?